Every single day, Russia sends hundreds, sometimes even thousands, of its own troops straight into the relentless grinder of the Ukraine war. These soldiers are chewed up by artillery, shredded by mines, and hunted by drones. Many never return home. For almost any other military power, such catastrophic losses would spell a total collapse in strategy. But for the Kremlin, this isn't failure, it's the plan. According to new figures from the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense, Russia's losses in 2025 have reached staggering levels. By October, the total number of casualties had risen to around 332,000 for the year alone. That means, on average, nearly 35,000 Russian soldiers are being lost every month. When those figures are added to previous years, Russia's total military casualties since the start of the full-scale invasion in February 2022 now exceed 1.1 million. Let that sink in. Over 1 million Russian troops have been killed, wounded, or captured in just 3.5 years. Ukraine's own estimates place the figure even higher, around 1.125 million, but the difference, around 7,000 men, is small in the grand scale of this war. To Moscow, 7,000 soldiers is just another week's quota of lives lost on the battlefield. And yet, despite these shocking numbers, Russia continues to push forward. Any other nation would have already declared a ceasefire or sought a diplomatic escape, but not Russia. Instead, the Kremlin insists that everything is going according to plan. The UK MOD's recent data shows that in September 2025, Russia was losing an average of 950 soldiers every single day, a slight improvement compared to earlier months. For a brief moment, it seemed like the casualty rate was declining. In March and April, daily losses reached 1,300 per day. But the brief good news didn't last long. By early October, the daily losses had once again climbed back over the 1,000 mark. Between October 5 and 12, Russian forces were reportedly losing more than 1,000 troops per day. These are not just statistics. They're a grim window into how the Kremlin views warfare. The total casualty count doesn't even tell the full story, because casualty includes both wounded and dead. The key to understanding Russia's situation lies in the ratio of wounded to killed soldiers. Historically, this ratio has reflected the effectiveness of a country's medical evacuation and battlefield medicine systems. During World War II, for instance, the Soviet army at the Battle of Kursk, a brutal, tank-dominated clash, had about 2.6 wounded soldiers for everyone who died. The British and Americans fared better, with ratios ranging from 4 to 7 wounded per fatality. Modern militaries, with advanced field medicine, typically see even higher ratios. In Iraq, the U.S. reported more than 7 injured for every 1 killed. But Russia's war in Ukraine is alarmingly different. According to a joint investigation by Mediazona and the BBC, published in October, Russia's current wounded-to-dead ratio is a shocking 1.3 to 1. That means for every 10 soldiers reported as casualties, nearly half are being killed outright. The reason? Poor training, lack of tactical medical support, and an almost complete absence of organized battlefield evacuation. In other words, Russia's wounded are often left behind to die where they fall. It is a staggering failure of military logistics, and it reveals something deeper about how Moscow views its soldiers, not as lives to be preserved, but as expendable assets in a numbers game. Reports from October 14th show just how devastating this approach has become. Ukrainian forces reported 190 separate engagements with Russian troops across the front lines in a single day. In that 24-hour period alone, 1,200 Russian troops, 5 tanks, 29 artillery systems, and nearly 400 drones were destroyed. Ukraine's artillery and air units also struck multiple Russian command centers, communication hubs, and logistics depots. Every destroyed command post means fewer coordinated attacks in the future and more Russian casualties. The UK MOD's figures estimated Russia's daily losses at 1,000 men, but Ukraine's data suggests the number may be even higher, This shows that Russia is once again ramping up its high-risk offensives, pouring wave after wave of soldiers into Ukrainian defenses without tactical adaptation. The question, then, is why? Why would any nation tolerate losing over 1 million troops in less than 4 years? For Vladimir Putin, the answer is simple. Attrition is strategy. Since the war began, Putin has repeated that everything is unfolding according to plan. This phrase, once dismissed as propaganda, may actually be an honest reflection of Russia's long-standing military doctrine: overwhelm the enemy with sheer numbers, regardless of cost. This doctrine has deep roots in Russian history. During the World Wars, the Soviet Union often compensated for technological and tactical inferiority with mass mobilization. The Battle of Kursk alone cost the Soviets an estimated 800,000 casualties, yet it was hailed as a victory because it halted Nazi Germany's advance. The Kremlin's current war mirrors that same philosophy. Russia's objective isn't necessarily fast conquest, it's exhaustion. Every missile, every tank, and every soldier sacrificed is seen as worthwhile if it forces Ukraine and its allies to burn through resources, ammunition, and morale. By forcing a slow, grinding war of attrition, Russia aims to outlast Ukraine's Western support. Recent reports suggest that Putin now believes territorial control, even limited, can give him leverage in future peace talks. According to Reuters, Russia currently occupies roughly 20% of Ukraine, with Putin claiming to have gained 1,130 square miles in 2025 alone. Those figures are modest compared to the scale of Russia's losses, but for Putin, it's enough to claim progress. In his view, holding just 1/5 of Ukraine validates his plan. The ultimate objective, according to analysts, may not even be to conquer all of Ukraine. Instead, the Kremlin seems focused on cementing its grip over the eastern regions of Luhansk and Donetsk. Every incremental advance in these territories strengthens Putin's hand in any potential negotiation, allowing him to demand that Ukraine cede them in exchange for a ceasefire. This slow crawl forward, however, comes at a catastrophic cost. Military analysts like George Barros from the Institute for the Study of War warn that Russia's manpower system is reaching a breaking point. After nearly 4 years of unrelenting losses, Moscow is running out of trained recruits, equipment, and funds. According to the ISW, the financial and demographic consequences of these losses could cripple Russia's war machine within the next 12 to 18 months. That means by the end of 2026, the Kremlin might be unable to sustain its own war plan. So, when Russian state media insists that the war is going according to plan, they're not lying. This is the plan: a brutal, costly war of attrition that sacrifices countless Russian soldiers in exchange for a few square miles of territory and a handful of political talking points. But as the months pass and the casualty count continues to climb, one thing becomes clear: Putin's plan may not be sustainable much longer. The same attrition strategy that once defined Soviet victory could now be the very thing that destroys modern Russia. The question that remains is simple: how many more soldiers will Moscow throw into the fire before it finally realizes that the plan has already failed?